Hey Rebels, if you're into golf and trading, we have the ultimate experience for you. Market Rebellion is sponsoring a tent on the historic 17th hole at the Players Championship, TPC Sawgrass, on March 10th through the 13th. John, Pete, all of our analysts and a bunch of special guests are going to be there. It comes with a 4-day all-exclusive VIP pass to the entire Players Championship tournament at TPC Sawgrass. That includes hotel accommodations as well as food and drink for all 4 days. We're going to be doing live trading on Thursday and Friday. We're going to do a Topgolf cocktail reception Thursday night and a champions dinner on Sunday night with a bunch of golf in between. It's going to be a ton of fun. We can't wait to see you out there. That's March 10th through the 13th at TPC Sawgrass. The Rebellion is coming to the Players Championship. Go to marketrebellion.com/golf and sign up today.
And here we go again. The market's again crazy. Yesterday, another wild ride. And as a matter of fact, it was kind of bumpy early on. And the last hour, that's where the wild ride returned. And suddenly we were looking at a market in the final hour. You look at the Dow Industrials, they improved by over 200 points, actually finishing up just under 300 at 275 points or so to the upside. That was pretty impressive late in the day. Once again, the final hour. Same thing with the NASDAQ. They really were working in concert. And you look over at the NASDAQ, final hour, 130 points were added. It got out of the red into the green and finished up about 106 points on the day. Just another one of these days, just another day in paradise. It's unbelievable. But it does continue. We still have some volatility in the markets as well. We're sitting there somewhere very close. We closed right around 22. We had a decent range of 22 all the way up 25 and change, but finished on the lows of the day, right there, right near that 22 level. We actually got a little bit below that during the day, but very, very close to that 22 level. So that was very interesting. We look at some of the volumes, 36.7 million contracts. We continue to be very, very active in the derivatives world, no doubt about that. You look over at energy, for instance, and you see something move again to the upside over that 88 level yesterday. The 10-year just kind of hovering somewhere between, call it 175 and a little over 1.8. And that's where we seem to find ourselves yesterday, a little bit closer to that 1.8 sort of an area. So energy, absolutely leading. I know it's untradeable according to so many, but I don't agree with that at all. And it continues to be hot. It doesn't mean it goes up every single day, but that energy space just continues to be very, very strong. And obviously the direction has been up for a very long period of time. So that was up about, just about 3.5% yesterday. That's a pretty good move for a sector. That's absolutely incredible. So that's a lot of really what the inner workings of yesterday looked like. But there was a lot of earnings. We continue to go through the earnings season, and there are big names still out there. We are not finished. We still got a lot more to go. UPS absolutely crushed it, and they have been crushing it, and they have had that lead over FedEx for a very long time. That was up 14% yesterday. Not so bad. You got Mosaic chipping in with about a 9% gain yesterday. You had Netflix rising. You had XOM. We talked about that already as far as energy. But XOM and those earnings for ExxonMobil. Nucor, that's another one of these. Obviously, material space. We're talking about iron ore and steel and all the rest of it. Lulu had a pretty decent day yesterday. PayPal had an okay day yesterday. Not so good today. We'll get into the frustration of that in just a second. AT&T, again, just near those lows. And we talked about that yesterday as far as some of the put activity we were seeing in there, but AT&T just cannot seem to be able to hold it. And it was down about 4% yesterday. You had names like United Health and J&J, some big names that were down in negative territory. When you're looking at a very green market, that's interesting. Tesla. Now, Tesla is pretty interesting because it finished flat, which I wouldn't have expected. I would have expected to see Tesla with a little bit more gains on the day based upon that last surge in the NASDAQ. And as I say, I've been using that as a bit of a barometer. Wasn't as good of a barometer yesterday, but we get into today. More and more earnings last night. Absolutely incredible. Some of the numbers that came out, some surprises, more to the downside on the surprise side than the upside. But as we get into today and looking at some of yesterday's earnings and some of the effects in the markets, NASDAQ actually looked pretty strong, up about 150 points. You had a Dow that was relatively flat. We started the day, we started to move a little bit. Those early morning highs for the NASDAQ were the highs that we have seen in the pre-market because we've been up about 125 points. Then we were up about 65 points. We've been bouncing around somewhere in that range. But last I looked, right before coming on here, the NASDAQ was up about 40 points and the Dow was down about 60 points. A little bit of that dislocation, although they're moving together on this push to the downside that we just started to experience just in the last 15 or 20 minutes right before coming on here. So crude was up and above that 89 level. As a matter of fact, right around that 89.50 level, that has pulled back, actually back all the way to be under 88. Again, that's going to be very volatile. We know that. We've been talking about that. You got the 10-year right around 176, like we were talking about, in that range, 175 to 18. And then you got that volatility index. It was starting to creep up. It might be creeping up even more, but started off the day in the 21s. We were about 22 and a half last I looked, and a little bit of changes there. So communication services, that was the area. Why is that? Well, all you've got to do is take a look at what was going on with Google. You get a pretty good interpretation of what's going on there, and a nice move to the upside, up about 3% for that. Technology up about 0.75% early on, and that was an area that we'd seen along with semiconductors. By the way, our screens and our unusual options today started off a little bit slow, but started a little progress and then just started to explode. And we're seeing both semiconductors and we are actually seeing some of the tech names as well popping in there. So that's something that we will definitely be keeping an eye on to see if that continues to roll as we have a little bit of a pullback on the NASDAQ, at least early on. We're still in the first hour, kind of meaningless, quite frankly. So Google did deliver. GM did deliver. PayPal, not so much. And as a matter of fact, a lot of frustration for a lot of people, including myself as a PayPal owner of stock. Very, very frustrating. And just the fact that every part of the earnings that they delivered had something negative more so than positive. And especially when you look at that outlook, that was a little bit frustrating because not a lot out there that was really giving us that sense of that was what was going on behind the scenes. But anyway, that's something we just all have to deal with. And so that one disappointing. Google, not at all. Absolutely crushed it. They did a fantastic job once again. And it's not just about earnings for Google. Keep in mind the fact that when they announce a split like that, that oftentimes can be a very, very bullish thing in terms of the interpretation to the markets, a 20-to-1 split. So that should be something to also just keep in the back of your mind. Google up about 8% early on. You had AMD who absolutely crushed it as well. That was up about 8%. We had semiconductors all participating to the upside where it was 2%, 4%, 6%, 8%. You had names like Micron, NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Marvell, all of those in positive territory, enjoying a really nice start to the day. Facebook started off okay as well, up about 2 or 3%, at least early on, started to pull back a little bit on that. But as I say, PayPal, I mean, it's just a disaster over there. It's down 20+%. It's been down significantly. And last I looked, it was really pushing even lower. So that one, not so great. You got C.H. Robinson out there, down about 9%, maybe a little bit more right now. So that is another name where you're talking about a disappointment as well. Netflix just given back a little bit after day after day after day, ever since the drop off of earnings, and then a lot of buyers coming in to kind of buy some of those lows. It's understandable that it might take a little bit of a pause. That's what at least the interpretation I'd take away right now with Netflix. I look at Gilead, though, down 4.5%. I look at Okta down about 4.5%. I look at Boeing pulling back a little bit after getting that nice pop yesterday based on some of those new sales that they were talking about. So a lot going on, and there's so much. I'll tell you, as I say, earnings just continue to explode, and we'll continue to be, passing that along with you. I will be on the halftime report today. We will be covering everything. Earnings from last night, earnings going into tonight, maybe tomorrow, all of that. There will be a lot of different stocks to hit. We'll see how many we're able to get through. Matter of fact, Melissa Lee will be there, so you know that she'll be holding everybody's feet to the fire. Look forward to that. So, got two unusuals for you, and then I'll see you on the halftime report with different unusuals. I love what we're seeing on the unusual options right now. So, Qualcomm, that one stood out. By the way, that one does have earnings tonight. So, you have to really understand this is based upon this unusual options we're seeing here. Obviously, they are playing the earnings, but they did get a little extra time. These are February 11th expiring options. So that's something to keep in mind. You do have that extra week. 3,700 of the 200 strike calls being purchased. Stock is at 182.25. Gives you a little idea. Is there room over the next week? Will earnings give them and deliver enough to get up there? None of us know that, but we are seeing this activity there. 3,700 of those, $1.50 all the way up to about $2.50 is what they were paying. So when I say that, just understand when they start buying, the stock was lower than 182.25. And as they were buying, and as it was moving up, and as the stock price was moving up, so is the premium that you're paying for those calls as well. So just understand that. That's why there's that little gap in that range. The next one, VXX. We talk about short-term volatility every once in a while. We talk about the volatility index itself most of the time, but the VXX, we do see option paper in there relatively frequently, I would say. And we have seen some, and they have been right. Matter of fact, last time we'd seen some of that VXX paper, that same day, we started to see that pop in volatility. I'm not saying that's going to happen today, but it's trading right around 1966. We have 3,400 of the April 35 calls being purchased today. Now, those are going for about $1.60. What makes this sort of interesting is they are rolling from March, buying a little bit more time and going up a little bit. So, or down a little bit, actually, to these from the March 40s to these April 35 calls. So keep that in mind. It does give a little bit of time. Also, I will say this, volatility indexes and options trading there can be very, very different than others just because of the mechanics of it all. But if you don't understand that, try to get educated on that. There are plenty of places you can find out a lot more detailed information. OCC site, and obviously a lot of the guys at Market Rebellion are great when it comes to some of the understanding of the deep down, the nuts and bolts, and all the things that go into a lot of this pricing. And it's not just the Greeks. There is, in some cases, different types of options out there that are differently formatted than what you are seeing with your normal everyday stuff, volatility being one of those. So the VXX, it's just saying somebody thinks we're going to see a little bit of a spike in the volatility index at some point in time. Remember, those can move, options can move on a move from stocks as they move to the upside. They don't have to go to the strike. Just always remember that as well. Folks, have a great day of trading. Look forward to seeing you on Halftime Report. We have all kinds of different unusuals today. We'll see what we're able to get to.